I want to welcome some new faces. I know David has joined us for the first time. Rabbi Miri joins us every so often, and the rest of us ossified group, we we are very happy to see you. And I believe I saw Wendy flash on and off for a second.
She's coming back in.
She's coming back in. Okay. Well,
so is Bev.
Let me start the session with our usual prayer. I will do it in English. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. You have sanctified us through your commandments and commanded us to busy ourselves in things of Torah.
Amen.
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 And I want to welcome our temple rabbi, Rabbi Roman, and it's good seeing you all. Last week we were in a big discussion about Abraham's manservant, and who has also gone on a mission to obtain a wife for Isaac, and that was not unusual for that time. And in some cases today, it still exists. But he has prayed to God. God has answered him with a sign, not a miracle event or anything, but a sign. And basically, Rebecca repeats the words of the manservant, and we went into that discussion. And now
Marty, excuse me
Yes.
one second, because I wasn't with you last week. I apologize. You just said, and he prayed to God. You mean Eliezer? You mean the servant?
Eliezer,
right?
Eliezer
Right.
prays to God.
Praise to the God of the Hebrews, Abraham's God.
Yes.
Okay.
And what happens when he meets Rebecca for the first time? Everything she does, it gives him water and gives water to the camels and all this. And this story is repeated several times. And that's where we ended it with the last few lines after he's speaking to Laban and Milcah. He is now the servant now says, and now if you mean to treat my master with true kindness, tell me, and if not, tell me also that I may turn right or left. Does that sound familiar to you? The phrase turn right or left?
It certainly does from a political point of view.
Well, it isn't a political question, but we've heard this phrase before. We discussed it a couple of months ago.
Did you have, do you mean when God tells Abraham, you're going to get from Mizrach to Ma'arab, from east to west and north to south? Is that what you mean?
It is with Lot. It was in the story of Lot.
Go there. Yeah.
That's right. And so Eliezer has learned something from at that time it was Abram, so Abram has been a very good teacher as well.
Yeah, Marty.
Abraham has been a good teacher.
Yeah,
And
Marty.
yes,
Yeah, sorry to jump in there, but what is the prayer? When we get to the end of the prayer, we bow from the left to the right. Is it the Mishubera prayer? I can't recall.
I know we do it with Lachad D.
Yeah, we do it also with the Kaddish.
At
Well,
the
yeah.
end of
Kaddish.
Right. Yeah, the Kaddish.
Well,
That's right.
I do not know
the
the tradition.
choreography is supposed to be reminiscent of when you're stepping away from being in the presence of a king or a queen or whatever. You acknowledge your humility, and and your respect, so that all can see that you're bowing to. That's where the choreography comes from originally.
Okay. So with that, we ended at that point, and now Laban.
What chapter and verse are we at? Because I missed last week.
We are at Genesis 24, verse 50. That's where we
24,
were
50.
summarizing because we have some people that weren't here last week.
I wasn't either.
So if somebody would like to read from verse 50.
I can.
Okay, please do.
Then Laban and Bethuel answered, and they said, "The matter proceeds from Adonai. We cannot speak to you bad or good. Rebekah is before you. Take her and go, and let her become a wife for our master's son, just as Adonai has spoken." Would you like me to keep going or stop?
You can stop here.
Okay.
Discussion. Pastor Bruce, do you have anything to say at this point or comment? Otherwise, I'll let Joanne speak. She had her hand up.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, go ahead, Joanne.
Well, okay. My first thought was no one asked Rebecca. She was pretty well said, okay, we will send her to your master. And that I was really pleased later to have her decide when to go. But
yes, that will come up. That will come up after we finish several more verses.
So,
right.
But my reaction there was nobody asked her.
No, they didn't.
They didn't. That's right. It was not her right to do so at that point.
Yes.
Okay. First, Steve, he had his hand up. Then I see Ricky has her hand up too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, just some interesting comments that appear here in the Hertz Bible, and Hertz doesn't give the origin of these comments, if they are his or earlier comments, but of course, often the rabbis will sort of really focus on a particular way something is said and make sort of an interpretation on why it's said that particular way. And it does say that Laban and Bethuel answered. So apparently, perhaps it's just Rabbi Hertz, perhaps it's earlier rabbis say, aha, look how disrespectful Laban is. He answered before his father. Doesn't exactly say he answered before his father, it just lists his name first.
However, in as one potential answer to your
that the father was dead.
Yes, he could be doing it on behalf of just saying I'm of Bethuel,
right.
progeny, and I said on his behalf too. But it was also customary for the brother and mother to enter into the discussion about marriage.
But the father is still the father.
Right.
The brother doesn't precede the father. And there is also a comment, and it's just sort of a fine tuning, because there are all sorts of ways to interpret what the circumstances exactly were. And of course, one of the interpretations is Bethuel wasn't even there at all.
That's right.
He had already passed on. But also the expression here that's a little bit peculiar is we can't speak bad or good. And again, Hertz explains it. He says it's an idiomatic expression. I'm not familiar myself with this idiom, and perhaps one of the rabbis can give us other references on this. I don't know if there are other places where this appears as an older Hebrew idiom, but supposedly it means we can't really say anything at all. It's not for us to say. We can't act against what God wants, and apparently God wants this to happen.
Right. That's what that is also found in Sforno. The Rabbi Sforno says that that is anything at all. We have no choice in the matter because God has already decreed this. Okay. Yes, Ricky.
Yeah, that's half of what I was going to say. The first thing I was going to say on a surface level, God is matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match here. But as the Lord has spoken, like that these two were two halves of the same soul. I mean, these two were meant to be together, however you want to phrase that. So you could take it at the two different levels. And you cannot speak good or bad. I kind of agree with what's been said, that in anything there could be good or bad. What's bad could be good, and what's good could be bad. So therefore, it doesn't, you just don't speak good or bad. It just is type of thing. That's how I read into that. That's it.
Okay. Anyone else want to add something to that discussion?
Just to keep looking for all the Fiddler on the Roof analogies all the way through this section.
Yes, Larry.
The Papa.
Okay. Yes, Larry.
One of
Just
the
to make
first
sure it's all in here. Really, believe me. I was looking at
of
it earlier.
Rebecca in 24:16, and the damsel was fair to look upon, a virgin. Now later also called a maiden. Now I wonder the nuances, differences between these three terms, and also in Christianity when we think about Virgin Mary. Are there other connotations to that word?
I'm going to have to defer that question to the rabbis.
Or the Christians.
And the Christians in our group.
Okay, maiden, damsel, and virgin.
At the verse, can you repeat the verse, Larry? What verse you were talking about?
We're backing up to 16, I think he said, verses
24:16.
24:16.
That's backwards.
Going back. The maiden was very beautiful, a virgin whom no man had known. She went down to the spring and filled her jar and came up.
I mean, we're talking about eligibility here.
Right.
Correct.
Yes.
They got to meet at the well. Wherever it is, they got to go to the well. Never mind if they're a virgin or not. They got to go to the well. It's where all the wives were found.
Do you know what?
I'm going to recognize Pastor Bruce. He had his hand up before. Pastor Bruce.
Oh, I was just saying the idea from Christianity would be very similar to the English wording here, young maiden who has not been slept with.
Yes, yes. In Hebrew, the word that they put is betula, and immediately after...
Well, actually, it says na'ara. It says na'ara. It doesn't say betula.
It says betula. It says
In verse 16, doesn't it say?
It says, הנערה טובת מראה ומאוד,
Oh, Betula.
בתולה
Okay.
ואיש לא ידעה. So it
Okay.
says, בתולה, virgin, no one had sex with her before. That's
Right.
that's and that's emphasized. Obviously, it was important.
You know, now where is the second verse that we're talking about, Larry?
In 43,
No, 24:14.
24:43, the maiden, which is
43, because let's see what the word is actually.
Unmarried girl, is it not?
43.
43.
Doesn't it mean unmarried
Hine
girl?
anochi ditzav ha'alma. It's ha'alma is the word in Hebrew.
A third word to describe her in Hebrew. We have the word nara, we have the word betula, that's virgin, and now we have a new word that says
Alma.
So we have three words, and truthfully, I know that betula in modern Hebrew we say for a virgin. Nara is a common word in Hebrew now. Alma is like Miss or Mrs. So we hardly use Alma. But these are three words to describe the woman. Then you have the other one, which is the daughter of.
Okay.
Which is another one.
Okay. Excuse me a minute. Just want everybody to know, I got a text from Rabbi Roman. He lost his internet.
Oh,
He dropped off.
I'm glad now. Before we continue, some people are not posed very well in front of the cameras. We have something that's called chat, and we can send message to these people just so they fix. I mentioned to Aggie, she's complete fog. She's not in focus. So sometimes we can fix that, sometimes no, but just pay attention to the chat.
Okay, well, we'll do.
Anyway, Marty, I would think, and Steve, you probably know, and Rabbi Muri, is the Hebrew word sort of an unmarried young girl kind of idea, one who hasn't been married.
Okay, I don't know enough of the Hebrew, so I have to defer. Yes, Steve, you've been very patient.
Yeah. If you could bear with me, it'll take me a moment. I'll look it up in the etymological dictionary, and then I will ask permission to speak. But as I recall, Alma, the connotation is unmarried woman. From just off the top of my head,
that's what I was.
I believe it is. In modern Hebrew, all it really means is sort of miss.
Right. And we have another word, Steve. We have the word in 44, it says, he Aisha. So four words here to describe her, and I'm sure the rabbi is much smarter than I, talked about it. We have four words to describe Rivka.
Okay.
Interesting.
Young man.
Very
Woman.
good.
Woman.
LM. Alma. Yeah. It's in the. May I speak? Marty?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm back.
Yeah. In the etymological dictionary.
Welcome back, Rob.
In the etymological dictionary, they do say here, marriageable girl, but in the male, there's also a male equivalent, LM. Alma, you add a hey, it makes it feminine. There's an equivalent word for male, LM, and in that case, it just means young man. It's just a young man. Could be a youth, could be a slave sometimes.
Okay.
So Not clear how it has a connotation of being marriageable. That would take a little bit of thinking.
Larry, I would like to interrupt right now because Rabbi Roman is back with us, and would you restate your question so that he has a chance to hear and can catch up with the discussion?
Sure. In 24:16, where early on when we meet Rebecca, and the girl was very good looking, a virgin, and no man had known her. Then in 43, we have
Alma is the word.
A different, right. We have three different terms.
I went to a different book, so it's different. We have damsel, we have maiden. In 43, okay, and it came to pass that the maiden that cometh forth to draw the water. And another place we have damsel. And
which verse has damsel?
Okay.
44?
Okay, yeah, 43, Hertz translates it as maiden.
Okay, that's the Alma. That's what Steve was talking about.
Yeah, that's the later one.
And then we have Na'ara, we have Betula, we have Na'ara, we have Alma, we have Isha.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I actually found something additional.
14.
Part of the difference is
And so it
who's
came to
talking.
pass that the damsel.
Yeah, the part of the difference is who's talking. Is it the narrator who's introducing us to Rebecca, or is it the phraseology of what Eliezer is hoping to find? Okay, so that's the narrator wants us to make sure that we understand that Rebecca was a young maiden, a marriageable age, and a virgin. But that's not necessarily what Eliezer, those aren't necessarily his pre-qualifications.
Yeah.
Okay.
May I just insert, Marty? Because I did find something additional in the etymological dictionary that Alma is that later term we were talking about, and assuming that it meant marriageable age. It comes from a root meaning strength or sexual prowess. So it means that you come to an age where you can perform sexually. In other words, it is marriageable. That's probably what we can assume. That's what it has in this etymological dictionary is my source for that.
Ayin Lamed Mem.
Sorry?
Ayin Lamed Mem.
Yes, Ayin Lamed Mem as sort of an older root. One of the reasons of it, one of the meanings of this older root means to be strong, specifically to be mature sexually. And how do they explain that? Yeah, it's not really explained, but that's one of many meanings, possible meanings of this root of Ayin Lamed Mem.
Okay, Steve, let's hear the rabbi.
So that's sort of a connection that I can see.
I don't think that it's an etymological thing that I'm familiar with, but I do recall, I can't give the quote, but I do recall the connection from Ayin Lamed Mem to Olam
Right.
with in a more contemporary word, saying this, that she's worldly. Okay, worldly, but there's also that eternal, that she participates in the eternal cycle of life. Yeah, those are probably more contemporaneous interpretations rather than being true to the etymology. But it works.
Yeah, but also the etymological does work as well,
Yeah.
because if it means having sexual prowess, having achieved that age of sexual prowess, that sort of coincides with marriageability. So
I'm just going to take prerogative and say you are all correct in your interpretations. Okay, so Larry, because it depends on what emphasis we want to pick. We have those choices with words every day, how we use the words.
Right.
But every one of these are correct. I don't think I would like to take sides and say one is more correct than the other. But sometimes things are also changed in time to embellish a word. And so I am not, that knowledgeable about Hebrew, but I don't know when other terms come into being. Like any other dictionary, there's a word root, there's a word, and over time, the interpretations of these words, what they denote, what they connote, changes. We're not the only language that does that. And so I think we just need to be aware of the fact that we've learned more about the maiden, the general term, and we've learned more about her. Yes, Michael.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring this for a moment into modern terms. Words do change and mean the same thing more or less. And just one example: teacher now is educator, and so these things happen.
Yes, a very good comment. So it depends on the age within which we live that we will see and how we want to use a different phraseology and like that. Remember, this was also orally transmitted. I'm going to throw in a few other things here that we haven't discussed. One, if this is orally transmitted, and over time, just like the game, you whisper in someone's ear, and by the time everything is finished, you have a telephone message is totally changed. And so we don't know. We have to assume. But this discussion, Larry, I have to thank you for this tremendous discussion, starting all of this, and the rabbis and Pastor and Steve. This was a very lively discussion about it. But I'm going to take
Gail has a question, Marty.
I'd like to go back to verse 6.
Okay.
All Abraham said was, go get a wife for my son. And if the woman won't be willing to go with you, then you'll be freed from this oath. He doesn't make any particular category about her status at all. Just a woman and get a wife. That's it. That's all Abraham said.
Ruth Ann, I have a technical question.
Okay.
Okay. Now I see Gail. Okay. For a minute, I couldn't see her image at all, but now I can. We're okay. All right. Let's move on a little bit. If somebody would like to read a little further. I think we are at verse 52.
I'll be happy to read.
Sure, please.
Okay, verse 52, and I'm reading from the Hertz version.
Okay.
Okay, this is a book that I've had all since my bar mitzvah, which of course is the same portion as Rabbi Roman's bar mitzvah, but here goes. And it came to pass that when Abraham's servant heard their words, he bowed himself down to the earth unto the Lord. And the servant brought forth jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment and gave them to Rebekah. She gave also to her brother and to her mother precious things. And they did eat and drink, he and the men that were with him, and tarried all night. And they were probably observing the night sky. And they rose up in the morning, and he said, "Send me away to my master."
Okay, let's stop at that point. David, that was a great plug. Oh, that was good, David. Any other comments about this portion that we just read?
Marty?
Wait a minute. Okay, Steve, yes.
It's just Bituel again is conspicuously missing.
Right.
Everybody gets gifts, but he's not there. So again, that lends support to the fact that he was not there physically.
That is in that
anymore.
commentary. Yes. Any other commentary? That's a good one, Steve. Good observation. Yes, Bruce.
Just that I think the servant went, whew.
After all this time.
After all this. Woo.
Yes. So what is going on here with all the gifts that are being bestowed on everyone? What is going on here?
Agreement is coming.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yes, Steve.
It's a betrothal.
Yes. It's like a dowry.
It makes it official. Yeah.
Right. It's like a dowry. Yes.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah.
They haven't asked Rebecca.
No, not yet, because you have to ask the Nara.
Yes.
And
it's coming in a few verses, but it started.
By the way, I mentioned this last week. The book by Pearl Buck called Peony, like the flower, okay, is an excellent resource. She goes into such fine detail about Jewish tradition, Chinese tradition, and I highly recommend it because it gives you some extra insight into our current discussion, because this is what happens, okay, in these discussions, and in the book.
Suzanne has her hand up.
Oh,
yeah, I just want to ask a question. Did they have marriage contracts back in this time frame, or was it, or did that come later?
Well, apparently it's a marriage contract right here.
No.
Are you saying a document, or are you saying because what we're reading here is leading up through all of that, that this is a contractual arrangement?
It may have been an oral contract, just an oral.
An oral contract? Okay.
Yeah, and it's like, by the way, now you're married, but it's nothing. First of all, I insist to the fact that they have to ask it. So there is no contract, no oral, and not written until that part is placed.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, where were we? Okay.
54.
It's 54. Any discussion there?
55.
55.
Okay, 55.
54, 55, somewhere around there.
Yes, it's 55. Anyone want to continue reading?
I could.
Okay, please.
Okay. This is Hertz also. This one I've had since the 70s, guys. Okay. And her brother and her mother said, let the damsel abide with us a few days, at least at the least 10. After that, she shall go. That sounds like a contract. I mean, that sounds like they've agreed to something.
Well, they have. They have.
Yeah.
Okay. But now, I'd like to interrupt here for a second.
You may.
Because what about the term 10 days?
Yeah, Marty?
Yes, Steve.
Yeah. And again, this is from Hertz, and Hertz is actually quoting older sources that say that it wasn't exactly 10 days, maybe. It could have been much longer.
Yes.
Or a full years and 10 months. He sort of mentions an older commentator named Onkelos and other commentators. And he says it's quite justified by the Hebrew idiom. So let me see exactly what it says in Hebrew. 55, okay, Vayomer Vima, Shevanai Tano Yamim O Asor. Achad Telech. Asor in modern Hebrew is actually a decade. so, but I'm sure that's not what they meant. But you know,
well, yeah,
the period could be quite long because we have to keep in mind that Rebecca is about to leave her family and perhaps not see them again.
See them ever. Yeah.
This is
well, at the least 10 days.
Excuse me, before I acknowledge Ruth Ann, I just want to interject something. This has been discussed because the expression days can be a year or 10 months, as was pointed out. The Mishnah, however, records an engaged virgin is to be granted 12 months to prepare herself. The servant would not have refused a delay of a mere 10 days. Okay, so Ruth Ann, you were going to say something.
Well, I was just going to say, my book does agree with that other, that it says another year or 10 months. And I'm just wondering if that's possibly because, the family is assuming that they are sending a virgin, and they want to make sure that there couldn't have been any hanky-panky between the servant, Eliezer and Rebecca. Do you know what I mean? I mean, 10 months would have proved that everything was good.
But at least that she wasn't pregnant.
Exactly.
Well, that doesn't mean she was still a virgin. But
yeah, right. But at least, that's about the only thing that they would know.
Yeah,
that's true.
Now, who speaks this? Who speaks the phrase?
Her brother, I think. Wait a minute. Her brother and her mother. Let the damsel abide with us a few days, at least. At the least 10. But after that, she shall go.
Right.
Yeah.
But
then it goes on, and he said unto them, delay me not. Oh, wait a minute. And who's he? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's not going back to the brother, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. But Laban, his phraseology, would it give us some, and with our discussion just now, would that give us some insight into another story in which Laban is speaking?
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
Suzanne, your hand is raised.
This bothers me because I always had the impression that Laban was trying to concoct something evil. In other words, he saw all the wealth that Eliezer had. He gave jewels and I forget what all he gave them, but it would indicate that he had a lot of valuable goods with him. And I'm guessing he must have had, did they ride camels back then, or horses?
Yeah, camels.
Or whatever. So he must have been thinking in the back of his mind that if Eliezer stays with them, that Eliezer might have an accident and they would profit from all that Eliezer gave them without Rebecca having to leave them and go marry Isaac. In fact, he may have been thinking that Rebecca might be good bait to lure others in to get more money and riches. I mean, I don't know. It's just that.
Good drush.
Yeah.
It's a good drush.
Yeah, Laban is not an honorable man, as we all know. So I wouldn't not put anything past him. So
Okay.
good for Eleazar. Did we read where Eleazar said, "No, I'm leaving"?
Okay, this is what we've been told about a man whose name we discussed last week means white. But what else? What other story that we come in contact with Laban and he does the same thing with the same semantics?
Later,
Jacob.
Everybody, I can't, please, everybody started talking at the same time. I know Pastor Bruce and Rabbi Roman were talking, and I heard a female voice. I have so many pictures here. It's hard to know who's raising first. Yeah, okay, Pastor Bruce and then Rabbi Norman.
We obviously we see it later, and I think we all said the exact same thing, and that was with Jacob later. You know, I mean, I think we all said that. It was hard. You're right. We were all saying the same thing.
Yeah. Rabbi, did you have anything to add to that?
No, just also, I'm impressed by the acuity of the students who all knew the correct answer to your question.
Because it's a very interesting way.
Yep.
There's a lot of midrash about Laban, that he's a trickster, that he's call him a coyote. Okay, he's the trickster, and his and what he says, you have to look for more nuances in the wording, and so maybe that's part of it too, where the midrash takes us, because this is really the first time we're learning much about the character of Laban, and we have to read in a lot. We're reading in a lot based on midrash. To explain the character, just like there has been a lot of midrash about Isaac's character in all of this. We don't hear many words from him, so so there's a lot of midrash. First, I'm going to recognize Ricky and then Mary. Ricky, you're muted.
My hand is not up. I was.
Oh, it wasn't. Okay, Rabbi Mary.
Well, I know that I'm a nutmeg in the seven, repeating myself. The issue of we have to ask the Nara. נשאל את הנערה ונשמע את פיה. And let's wait 10 days, and then she needs to agree. In my mind, we as Israel, Bnei Israel, we are breaking a tradition here in the ancient world. This is not a common thing, and we know that later on is certainly not a common thing to ask the woman if she wants to go. And since it's oral tradition, we don't know when they wrote this, but I think that we have to pay attention to it because it's abnormal. And it's a wonderful thing.
Thank you. Very good. Yes, Rabbi.
Well, whenever you're ready, I know you've got lots of other people that you're looking at.
Okay.
If it's time, I'm going to introduce an entirely different approach.
Okay. You tell us when you want to mention all of that.
Whenever you're ready for me, but
Go ahead.
It might take us in a different direction.
That's okay. That's okay. Let's do that.
All
so
right.
What did you want to say?
The Hebrew readers will notice specifically what I'm referring to in verse 55. Okay. The translations that I think we heard, but her brother and her mother said, "Let the maiden remain with us, up to 10 days, and then you'll be able to go."
whatever. Okay, all right. There's some interesting things here to be noted from the Hebrew. One, the first is that the verb is he said, not they said. It's that her brother, and which we're translating, her brother and her mother both said together, let her stay here for 10 more days, and then, or up to 10 days, however you want to see it. But the Hebrew just says basically her brother said. And since in the Masoretic text, we're not sure exactly what was going on in their minds when they identified where the commas and the periods and whatever should be, it's a legitimate alternative translation that her brother said her mother should stay with the maiden, okay, for up to X number of days. Now maybe that's the training period because this whole thing happens very quickly. Right? This is not a long courtship. This is not a political alliance between tribes. This is Eliezer sees Rebecca. She brings him back to the family, and something's done quickly. And then there's a further complication. And some of you, if you have the Hebrew in front of you, you'll know that there's a scribal error here.
Yes.
Okay, the scribal error is that the word na'ara, which we've been translating as maiden, is actually written as hana'ar, as the male in the male form.
Yes.
Now the verb of that she shall stay or she shall dwell is in the feminine.
Yes.
So there's a complication. Or there was a change, or there was a scribal error, which is the old form of the game of telephone, like that Marty was talking about. But something else has happened in the way that arbitrarily the sentence has come down to us. Okay, because there are too many little errors here that we can't just overlook them.
No,
and that's why I say it might lead us into a speculating of a different idea or a different theory of what was taking place.
But could I ask what your speculation is on that? Is there any sort of drash on why it says it has that apparent, spelling error, but it obviously there are no errors. Everything is intended. You're supposed to read it as na'ara, even though it says na'ar. So what could possibly be the motivation for that? The rabbis may have at some point said, oh yeah, well, obviously this was intentional because.
It says teshed. Teshed.
I didn't hear what Mary's saying.
Mary? Rabbi Mary?
The verb is teshed, which is for a woman, for neked, it's for a female. So there is no connection between the subject and the verb.
No, I understand that. But I'm asking, we're recognizing that the standard way of writing it would have been ne'ara with a hey at the end. The hey is missing.
In other
what happened
words,
to the hey?
Right. What happened? Right. Is it just a simple spelling mistake? Or was there an intentional sign that the one that I do remember, and again, I don't have all the texts in front of me to be able to look it up quickly. The one that I do remember is that it's kind of like a midrashic interpretation, is that it's still referring to Rebecca, but that she as when it's written as na'ar, pronounced na'ara, but without the hey at the end, it means she's an incomplete na'ara. There's still something missing, right? Something that's missing is the letter hey, which can stand for God, or it can stand for her future husband and destiny, or whatever. But that's the one comment that I do remember of how they justify, like Steve is saying, that there's always a meaning in why what we would most likely think was just a simple mistake. But they have to add something into it to try to explain it. But a legitimate translation of the whole sentence is that her brother said that Lavan is speaking to Eliezer, that let the mother stay with the maiden.
Fascinating.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Concordancia speaks of other instances that Nara is without the hay. So I don't know.
I'm sorry, Mary, who speaks of other instances?
I mean, with the concordancia.
Concordance, a biblical concordance.
Yeah. So it tells where else that thing appears.
Oh.
So there.
Okay. Pastor Bruce has a comment while Mary is looking something up.
I'm sorry. Can I just explain what Mary is referring to here? It'd be the difference of in the same story of if the word was spelled N-I-G-H-T, but then later in the paragraph somebody spelled it N-I-T-E. Okay, do both really mean the same thing? Was it a different scribe, a different writer? Whatever.
Okay.
Okay.
Pastor Bruce. Okay, I'm going to, Pastor Bruce, please very finally look this up. Let's hear from her, Rabbi Mary, and then Pastor Bruce. And Bev, was your hand up?
My hand was up just
okay,
to.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was just to expand on
Okay,
why they were sending the mother with.
Bev, wait 1
Rebecca.
second. You're fourth in line. Okay, first Rabbi Mary.
No, I don't have anything. I talked enough.
Okay, then Pastor Bruce.
Just in the midst of this deep theological one-word study, I'm known at my church as Pastor Practical. And some people actually call me that. Oh, here comes Pastor Practical, because I always think of everything in practical terms. I am not a mother, and so I can't speak to this particular issue. But if 24 hours had passed and my daughter was leaving me, I would think if I was a mother that I would want to spend a little bit more time with her and a little bit more instructional time with her before she got married and was off running with somebody I didn't even know. And again, mothers can speak to this better than me, but I would think that that would be a lot of what we're talking about here, practically speaking.
Okay. Bev, now it's your turn.
Okay, well, I was just going to talk a little bit about the missing hay.
We'll come back to that. Yep.
Okay, the missing hay. Well, I mean, when Rabbi Norm was talking about, the mother, needing to instruct the daughter in, well, probably a lot of, what happens in a marriage. But, it's also possible that a lot of girls didn't also get instructed in the religion. And that could be the missing hay, and what she needed to learn to become, a part of what makes her part of the Jewish community.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm muting myself.
Was there someone else who was trying to speak, or was that just some?
I think that was just random noise.
Okay.
Somebody was, yeah.
I think that
Yeah,
that Beverly could also be onto something. What would be the influence on Rebecca if she stays those extra 10 days or months or whatever we want to say? What happens to the person? Wouldn't she come under more influence of a different way of thinking than Abraham's way and Isaac's way of thinking? So maybe haste is in the servant's mind.
Yeah, that's okay. That's who's probably running it.
Okay. So I don't know, but I'm just throwing that out as another drash. So I think that we can look at it from both, we have to try to put ourselves into the minds of all of the characters as we come across them. So I don't know the right answer here, but it sounds reasonable too. Yes, Rabbi Roman.
There's another little midrash. I don't know whether you pointed it out when you introduced the story last week, and that is that Eliezer secretly was hoping that Isaac would become engaged to his own daughter, to Eliezer's daughter.
Oh,
and so while he does respond to Abraham's request and does it, immediately and but this may be an indication that, well, if she's not going to come, I gotta go right back. Maybe there's still a chance that my daughter can come into the mix here.
Interesting.
Okay. So now that we've taken these few words apart.
Marty, David has his.
David has a.
Oh, David, I'm sorry.
Actually,
yes.
It's okay. It's actually Wendy wishes to say something.
If we keep two microphones on here, we get the tunnel effect. But it seems to me, and I've watched other girls, for example, come into my family for the first time and see everybody and the interaction. They usually, the smart ones, just sit back and watch and look and listen. And yes, they learn. And it doesn't necessarily change their way of thinking about how their father thinks, but it gives them a way of thinking of how to deal with all the different personalities in the possible new family. And so if she's there for a long time, it'll know if she gets along with them and they get along with her, and what the interaction is going to be if she makes a lifetime commitment. That's my thought.
It's a good one. Very good. Thank you. And I see Grace agrees. Okay. And any further comments about this? Well, let's go on to verse 56. Hey, we're making headway here. Verse 56. If somebody would like to read what Eliezer is about to say. Anyone? Oh, okay. Yes, Joanne.
Okay. 56, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. He said to them, "Do not delay me. Now that the Lord has made my errand successful, give me leave that I may go to my master." You want to keep reading?
Yes. Let's go on to the next phrase because it's still a further, they're still talking.
And they said, "Let us call the girl and ask for her reply."
Okay, well, this sort of ties into our earlier discussion. Any comments about these? Yes, Steve.
Yeah, well, it seems recognizing the fact that what Rabbi Mary was pointing out, that you do have to ask the girl, and get her consent, but them seeking her consent was only under pressure of doing a rush job on this. Eliezer is sort of pressuring and saying, "Hey, you know what? I really have to get back." you know. And then they say, okay, we'll go ask Rebecca. It was sort of under that pressure that they did that. It appears, at least from the text.
Very good. Very good. Yes, Ruth Ann.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Steve. I think the engagement was a done deal. The only thing they were asking Rebecca is the time frame. You know, is she ready to go right now, or does she want to stay for another week or so with her mother? That's all. They were not asking Rebecca's permission for the engagement. That was a done deal already.
Let's if somebody would like to read verse 56 again. I think the answer, another answer is there, that as to why Laban is agreeing so quickly. He said to them, "Do not delay me, now that the Lord has made my errand successful." Why would they say otherwise now? Because they would be going against the word of not just Eliezer, not just Eliezer and Abraham, but Eliezer and God. So he's up, if you will, he's up the ante.
You better accept this, because this is part of God's plan.
That's right.
To verse 50, the matter was decreed by the Lord.
That's right.
And
it goes way back. That's right. He's reminding them that this is a higher authority that is telling me that this is the right thing to do. Yes, Ruth Ann. And then Michael. And then Steve. Okay.
I mean, we know that these are Abraham's relatives, okay? But we also know that Abraham left his family before, or at the same time that he, figured out or had a relationship with one God. But do we know that this family, that Rebecca's family, only believed in one God? I mean, they may have been still praying to idols.
That's correct.
We don't know what kind of religion they had. I think we're assuming too much.
According to my genealogy, Rebecca goes back to Ham, if you want to go back that far. Ham to Cush, to Mizraim. Anyway, that they're marked as Philistines. Wait a minute, that's around a lot.
Okay, but Ruth Ann brings up a different commentary here that is rather important. And it sort of dovetails into our earlier discussion that there would still be a chance to exert a further influence on Rebecca. And so Eliezer is saying, "Come on, let's do it." I'm saying it's not just me. It's and Abraham. It's God. I'm reminding you again that there was, in my entire story, it's been God that has sent me on this mission.
Yeah.
And so he invokes that higher power. There were several other hands that were up. First, Steve, and I believe there was and Mary.
Mary.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, first of all, in reference to what Ruth Ann brought up, in the fictionalized version, they are still worshiping idols. As I recall, the Red Tent is the name of the novel. It's very, very interesting a read. And the other thing was just my comment on your pointing out, Marty, that Eliezer is sort of up the ante by bringing God into the equation.
Reminding them.
And that is, recognizing that that's a legitimate interpretation. My read on it is sort of more directed. It's more idiomatic. It's his custom, and our custom has continued to kind of attribute everything to God. You know, you don't say I did a terrific piece of art, or I composed a great opera. You say God helped me compose this opera. I thank God that I was given this gift. I was able to produce this piece of art. So it's a little bit idiomatic, possibly, you know, not necessarily saying, I know what God has ordained and you better not, you know, disregard this. He's kind of idiomatically saying, you know, God has made, he doesn't say I've been a real success at being Abraham's right-hand man. He's saying God has enabled me to be successful in this endeavor. He's, you know, always giving credit to God. And it's our, our continued practice. And it's our continued practice. No, I'm still talking. So just bear with me. Yeah. Our continued practice is, you know, after anything, you know, after sipping some wine, after eating a piece of bread, you always say, oh yeah, God gave us this. This is all coming from God. Kind of idiomatic. Okay, now I'm done.
Thank you. Rabbi Mary and then Rabbi Norman.
Well, we know that we say there is no first and there is no late in the Torah. So I'm going to go to the future. In the future, we know that Rachel, when she goes, she carries with her the idols. She's sitting on them. And when they want to run and check that she has them, she says, well, I cannot get up. I have women issues. So we know that there were idols. And if I'm going further, Moshe says, and what if they ask me, who are you? What shall I tell them? So there is that question of saying, Adonai Shalom Li. Does everyone know what it refers of? But in my mind, I don't have a doubt that the family of Rivka had idols.
Okay. Rabbi Roman.
Yeah, three quicks. One, I'm sure that I have to correct Steve, but I'm sure it was just a simple slip of the tongue. We say those blessings, thanking God, but we say those before the act, not after.
Oh, sure.
Right. Okay. Anyway.
Only the grace after meals is after the meal. Yeah.
Exactly. The second is in verse 57. It's the same the missing hay in the Hebrew.
Yes.
Okay, so it just could have been that particular scribe wasn't overly knowledgeable in spelling. He didn't get an A, you know, on his spelling test. It could have been that, or it could have been something more profound. The classic commentaries, and I think that the question, that the way it was brought up is a very good one and a very valid one. Were Lavan and Bethuel and Milcah, you know, whatever, and Rebecca even herself were idol worshippers, or did they believe in the same God that Abraham and Sarah did? The commentators take their clue from verse 50, okay, where Laban and Bethuel answer Eliezer, and somebody quoted it already, that the matter was decreed by the Lord, not by your Lord, not decreed by Abraham's God, whatever, but the Lord is an acknowledgement that they believe in the same God. That's how the classic commentators look at it that way.
Okay. Can I ask a question, getting back to the hay? If we look at Sarai, and she becomes Sarah with a hay, Avram his name is changed to Abraham with a hay. is there consistency with once we read that Rebecca agrees to go along, is the hay reinserted?
We'd have to look and see if she's acknowledged as a na'ara once she's married. Once she has been with Isaac.
Okay, so
she has a new her Facebook status has changed.
So I add that in just for purposes of discussion, because we have seen this once people who have become followers of the Lord, that the name is the hay is added to their names,
or a yud is added.
Yes,
right.
Yes, it could be. So I would just keep that in mind until, for future reading, what happens.
Right. But to answer your direct question, Marty, I do not believe that after this episode and this interaction, I don't believe that Rivka is identified as a Na'ara anymore.
No,
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
They are Rivka and then Eshet, which is the wife. That's
the wife, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Yes, Steve.
Yeah. She just, before that, she's just a girl, But once she becomes a real character in the story and her name can be recognized readily by the reader, they just refer to her as Rivka. There's no reason to talk about the girl anymore. As Rabbi said, this is just supporting what Rabbi said. It's just,
okay.
Good writing. That once you've established the character and everybody knows the name, you can refer to the character by name. You don't have to keep referring to the character generically.
Thank you. Very good. Bev, I think that you're slowly drifting down and everything. Your hand is up high now. Okay.
Okay. All right. This has been so fun, but that wasn't actually where I was going with that. when I mentioned the hay and the mother educating Rebecca in the religion, what I meant was that girls were not always educated in, say, Judaism, in our religion, not necessarily idol worshipers. So I'm accepting that they were not necessarily idol worshipers, but that she was not properly educated.
Okay.
But boy, did it go off on really interesting tracks.
You brought up a very important question. Well,
so anyway, go
any
on.
further comments? I have to just ask Aggie a question, and that is periodically. I don't know if you're trying to wipe your screen or raising your hand.
No, I was told that it's very fuzzy, the picture. I was trying to fix that.
Can you get closer to the screen?
Okay, I tried to fix my camera because I was told it's very fuzzy, the picture. So no, I don't want it to say anything. But
I appreciate that, but I wanted to be sure that you had, if you had something to say, you would be able to join in. And
I've got to remember to sit on this hand instead of lean on it, because you think I've...
Yes. Yes, Ricky, go ahead.
No, that was all. Just that I have to sit on the hand so that you don't think I'm raising my hand.
Okay. Joanne, you had your hand up.
Okay. Across my screen every once in a while, Grace, I think it's Grace Ferreira.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one time she says that they were bargaining, and she's giving some answers, but I'm not sure who's picking up on them, or are they only on my screen?
No, they are on our screen. The thing is that we had already gone beyond those points.
Okay.
That's all. But she's right that that she's making little comments, and she also mentioned that Eliezer was speaking about Abraham, and we went into that discussion too. That was she was agreeing with some of the.
I think Grace prefers to send chat messages rather than to verbalize.
And I have to apologize to her, but thank you for addressing that. And also I apologize to her dog because we don't acknowledge him. Anyway, Gail, while I think of it, I haven't seen your cat today. Is the cat okay?
You're muted, Greg. Oh.
Taking a nap.
Oh, okay. 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 So any further discussion as to what we've been going over? Well, let's see what happens now. Verse 58, if someone would like to read.
Martin?
Oh, yes.
Okay. We didn't discuss the give me leave. I'm looking, I know it's here. Give me leave that I may go to my master. I think that's, why is he asking permission of Rebecca's family instead of saying, I'm here, I'm heading home. I hope I can take Rebecca with me.
I'm going to let other people answer your question first. Yes, Suzanne.
You're muted.
Suzanne, I think you're muted.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I think Eliezer is used to being in the servant role and not in a leadership role. So, you know, he's in their turf, so that would make them the bosses or the masters, or, you know, however you want to look at it. So I just see this statement as in character with his occupation.
Yeah. Yes, Ricky.
I think
Very
that
good, Suzanne.
Yeah, I think that question is answered in the next couple of verses where it says, and they said, let us call the girl and ask for her reply. And then they asked the girl, will you go with this man? So I think that Joanne, your question is answered in the next couple of sentences.
Okay. I would just,
that's how I read it.
Yeah. And I thought of servant role, but the other thing is he came with all this money, etc. So he really was in a very strong position to say, I'm leaving. Can she come with me?
Yeah, but he's got to go with the girl.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Well, yes.
Or at least
if you are in the presence of someone who is even your equal, you're at a party, the older wording would have been this way, especially if you're to the head of the household.
Take your leave, yeah.
Can I have permission to leave? But especially if you're in a servant status, you would be, as was brought up, you're going to use that wording it's a sign of politeness and humbleness. I'm still a servant, but I recognize I have to ask you. And it's not only in old Judaism. This is for the time period. If you go into Asian culture, it would be expected to be worded this way. And other cultures that are where you recognize who's the head of the household, they have to still give you permission that it's okay to leave. Remember, you're just an emissary. You're not. Yeah. Yes.
No. Go finish your point, Marty. It's okay. Finish the
No,
point.
I've said enough today. But yeah, you go ahead, Rabbi.
All right. I wanted to use this sentence as another example of showing how that the Masoretes, when they decided where to put the grammatical statement, that they were giving an arbitrary definition and translation. It doesn't necessarily take us in a different direction as a previous one, but again, in 56, if the commas and a little bit of the grammatical, the vowels are changed, the 56 could say, he said to them, that's Eliezer speaking to them, don't delay me any further, okay? And then at that point, there's a possible reinterpretation or a vocalization of the second part of the sentence, okay? God has made me successful on my way on which I was sent. Now let me go, or I will now go. And the last word is La Adonai, or Ladoni, is printed here. Ladoni mean my master, meaning to Abraham, to my Lord, so to speak. But if they vocalize it differently, it says, now I can go according to, or I can go with God. I can go according to, the next step of God's plan. So just I'm not suggesting that we change it, but just to show that in the process, if some of the vowels were different and some of the trope marks for the chanting were a little bit different, the sentence could be translated in an entirely different way. I'm not advocating that we do that, but
Right.
that just to show it.
Now thank you, Rabbi. There was another hand that was up, and I don't remember who it was. Yes, Pastor Bruce.
And I was going to say a lot of what Rabbi Roman just said as well, in that whole idea. And could he even be saying, you're already messing with me for 10 days, and when you're messing with me, you're messing with God's plan. Don't do this. I mean, there's a lot of things you can think that he might be thinking and saying this sentence. This is the way it's supposed to be going, and I need to get going so that you don't start messing with the plan anymore. That idea. I mean, sometimes we, as human beings, also think, okay, this is the direction I'm supposed to be going. I know this is the direction I'm supposed to. Think about it. Think about how we act and react as human beings. I'm following, I'm doing what I think I need to be doing, and don't talk to me about changing the plans now. I mean, just think about how often do we say that, really? I know what we're doing. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. Don't start giving me other ideas here. Let's just go on. It's just the way I think.
Interesting. Very good. Okay, first Ricky and then Rabbi Mary.
Again, I picked up my Orthodox Bible here, starting 55, the commentary. This was the period of the year or 10 months, however, that question. This was the period of time generally given to a young bride to prepare for her marriage. Ostensibly, therefore, Laban and his mother were making a customary and reasonable request, but like Bethuel, they intended to break the engagement. Knowing or suspecting this, Eliezer would not consider any delay. Since everything has gone so smoothly and God guided my mission so speedily, it is obvious that he wishes me to return to my master without delay. So that's sort of I had never heard about that. They thought they were going to break the engagement.
Okay, I have never read it in the Torah per se.
Well,
So
that's a
must
stone
be
edition of whatever this is, the Chumash that I got from an Orthodox synagogue.
okay, very good. Thank you, Mary.
Well, I found it interesting regarding the translation, because in all the prayers that we do, wherever we do them, we say Lord for Adonai.
Yeah, I'm just kind of
So you have Lord
all about getting that.
as God, or it can be my master, because we say Lord is my master. So the same word could be both God and the one that I belong to, my master.
Interesting, very interesting. Any other ideas? Okay, let's read on a couple of the verses here. Verse 58. They called Rebekah and said to her, "Will you go with this man?" And she said, "I will." So they sent off their sister Rebekah to her nurse along with Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, "O sister, may you grow into thousands of myriads. May your offspring seize the gates of their foes." Any comments about that?
Yes.
Yes, Larry.
Okay. Steve mentioned we often refer to previously Rebecca as the girl. But
Wait a minute. There's a lot of someone is working with books or papers or speakers, and it's interfering with what Larry wants to say.
Okay, hope you can hear me. Okay, Rebecca is one of the matriarchs.
I think it's Larry's microphone.
Yeah.
It just died on him.
Marty, you can mute everyone.
Oh, I have to leave that up to Ruth Ann.
I don't think it's a problem. I think it's Larry's internet.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sorry.
It was better now. No.
Goes in and out.
I'll come back.
Can you send that as a chat?
Sure.
Okay. Grace had, I just wanted to say that Grace had a very interesting comment. Grace, would you like to explain what you mean by that? Grace? Grace is muted.
No, I'm here.
Okay, now you're unmuted.
I have to reread. I need to reread it real quick. If you'll just give me a moment, I want to just sitting presidents about the future. In the previous, we were discussing. See, that's where I get lost. Going back a little ways in the chapters. But I want to say about treating one another in the respect of how Eleazar was behaving and towards, in their land. And I'm thinking perhaps that's laying some groundwork for the future for all mankind. That's all I was saying.
Okay. Good point. Yes, David.
Yeah, I want to agree with that completely. And also, this is the verse that really opens up to the future. So, be thou the mother of thousands of 10,000s, and that they possess the gate of those that have a different opinion or that hate them. But I think what this verse is trying to do is to give us the big picture in a sense, and looking way out into the future. And so in that way, I really do agree with that last comment.
Yes, yes. Any other comments? And again, does somebody want to, who can read the Hebrew, how is Rebecca's name printed at this point in Hebrew? Is the hay still there?
Yeah. Rebecca is with the hay at the end.
No, is it now with the hay? For a while it was without the hay.
No, without the hay was the word na'ara, which is...
No, that's right. But we were also, Rabbi Roman brought it to our attention that Rebecca, at this point, up until now, does not have a hay.
In the word na'ara, not in the Rebecca.
Well, also in Rebecca.
No.
No? Oh, I misinterpreted. I'm
sorry if I gave that impression.
It's
No,
just
in the word, just in the na'ara.
Okay. I misinterpreted and I apologize. Anyway, yes, this is very important about looking to the future and does anything sound familiar in what Laban and Milcah are saying? Does anything sound familiar? Yes, Steve.
You're talking about verse 60?
Of course, it
sounds
very much like God's promise to Abraham.
Yes. Yes.
That you will have many descendants, and you will possess the gates, or you will overcome your adversaries also.
Yes, that's right. Yes, Rabbi Roman.
I need to ask any of the women, any of the brides who are present, if they remember this phrase being recited to them as a blessing before coming to the chuppah. Because it's used to this day.
Is
usually
it one of the seven blessings?
Either right before or right after the veiling, the bedek and the veiling ceremony.
Is it one of the seven blessings?
There. Now, in a lot of contemporary weddings, Jewish weddings, that's where they say shehechianu rather than this achotenu at. But I just wonder if it sounded familiar.
It may have for my daughter. Because she had the bedecking and everything. I don't remember it for myself. It was kind of a strange circumstance when we got married, but I remember it for my daughter, definitely.
Okay. Mary, did you have your hand up, Rabbi Mary?
No, I had a very reformed rabbi, even in Israel, so probably it was Shechianu. But it is about having a lot of children and growing lemitzvot, velechatuna, something like that. I don't remember the wording. Sorry, but I know it's there.
Okay, Steve.
Is it? I'm just asking. Is it one of the traditional 7 blessings?
No, it's not. No, Sheva brachot. That's 7 blessings. Something totally different. No, this is said right at the bedekin, at the veiling ceremony. Specifically.
Okay. Any further comments?
So Norman, tell us.
Yeah, want to hear the answer.
Okay.
Norman, what's the answer?
So after this, what does, in 61, verse 61, what happens?
No, we didn't get the answer to the question that was raised.
What was the question?
Well, yeah.
What was, I missed the question then. I apologize.
Rabbi Roman had posed the question, you know.
Oh, the question was, do any of the brides remember having this being said?
Yeah,
Oh.
and like I said,
Right.
I remember when my daughter got married. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
If you hold a second, I have here the manual.
Okay.
Okay, while we're waiting for Mary to find that out.
Well,
Suzanne?
keep going and I'll
Oh, okay.
tell you when I got it. Oh, here. I think I've got it. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמרם ויצילם מכל צרה וצוקה. Okay, I'll read it in English. And the Holy One watch over them and deliver them from trouble and from affliction and illness. May they be privileged to see their offspring devoted to Torah mitzvot and the performance of good deeds. May God bless you and prosper you in all your work. That's all it says here. So I don't know.
Okay.
Can you tell us, right, Norman?
Well, there are several other hands up. While you're looking that up, let me first recognize Suzanne and then Joanne.
I just want to say, well, first of all, I would not have recognized the words to begin with, but myself and my parents and I were all crying walking down the aisle. So even if I did know the words, it probably would have gone over my head.
Okay.
It was probably a sign of something that was to come. Since that marriage did not work out.
Okay. Joanne.
I just wanted to say, being Catholic, I don't remember at all what the priest said, but I do remember taking flowers over to the statue of the Virgin Mary, and my own prayer was in many ways similar to this, that I would be a good wife, that we would have children, and that we could work together. And I must have succeeded a little bit. August 20th, we will be married 60 years.
Yay.
Oh, congratulations.
Awesome.
Congratulations. That is tremendous. We just celebrated our 53rd. So you're a little ahead of us.
Yeah.
But I think, did anyone else have something?
Yeah.
Ricky, yes.
Yeah, again, from the Orthodox one. May you come with thousands of myriads. Grace, let's see. Now they expressed to Rebecca their hope that this blessing of Abraham would be, that we talked about, would be fulfilled through her offspring. May it be God's will that these offspring descend from you and not from another wife of Isaac. Is the point. That's one parallel in the construction there.
Very good. Very good. Any other comments? Well, let's see what happens. Okay. In verse 61.
Off they go.
Anyone want to read that?
Oh, sure. Then Rebecca and her maids arose, mounted the camels, and followed the man. So the servant took Rebecca and went his way.
Any comments at this point? Okay. Let's go on to verse 62, Ricky.
Okay. Isaac had just come back from the vicinity of Beersheba. Where? Anyway, for he was settled in the region of the Negev. And Isaac went out walking in the field toward evening, and looking up, he saw camels approaching. Raising her eyes, Rebekah saw Isaac. She alighted from the camel and said to the servant, "Who is that man walking in the field toward us?" And the servant said, "That is my master." So she took her veil and covered herself. The servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Isaac then brought her into the tent of his mother, Sarah, and took Rebekah as his wife. Isaac loved her and thus found comfort after his mother's death. There's a lot there.
There is. So since you noticed that, what other ideas came to your mind?
Well, actually, one of the things I just cracked up myself about was every time one of the guys sees a gal and makes a comment about how she looks, that she looks beautiful or whatever, this one is the other way around. That who is that man? And it sort of assumes or it's unstated, but I read into this that she found his looks pleasing enough to veil herself and be ready for this thing that's happening to her.
Okay.
That's not what's written there. That's my midrash.
Okay. Steve, and then Rabbi Roman.
Yeah. And this again, this is a comment by Hertz in the Hertz Bible that's referencing Rabbi Hirsch, that points out that he took her and then he loved her. That might seem a little surprising. Don't you fall in love first and then the other thing happens? Well, the most important thing, that can happen and that's okay, but it's most important that the love continues afterwards. So that's the comment. It's not my comment. It's here.
Okay. First Rabbi Roman and then Suzanne.
So a couple of chapters ago, we were saying, well, where's Sarah's voice here? Where's Abraham's voice here? Isaac doesn't introduce his fiance. Eliezer doesn't introduce Rebecca and say, "Okay, boss, I did what you told me to do." There's none of that. This is as Ricky was implying, this is love at first sight. But she falls in love with him. Literally, she falls. I mean, I don't like the translation of that she alighted from her camel. She fell off the camel. Okay, she was so struck, struck by that fella over there, who still has not interacted with his father, and he doesn't do the courteous thing or the respectful thing to the leader of the clan and take Rebecca. He just says, come on into the tent. You're mine. Kind of thing. And I'm making that a little more brutal than it really is. And the other piece that's here that we wouldn't necessarily know it is that with the phrase in verse 63 that Isaac goes out walking in the field toward the evening, the rabbis interpret that as praying mincha. That's the afternoon prayer, and look how well that came out for him. So,
very good. Yes, Rabbi Mary. Oh, excuse me, Rabbi Mary. Suzanne was ahead of you, and I didn't want to reshuffle the order. Yes, go ahead, Suzanne.
I always wondered about this last verse here, because it sounds like they had relations. And where was did they do marriage ceremonies back then? I mean, it seemed like they skipped steps. And
there's no such thing as a ceremony.
Okay. So
as a result of the fact that there was no ceremony, an act of intercourse can serve as a commitment for marriage and recognition of marriage in Jewish law.
Oh, okay. So actually, she was considered married, I guess, back back at her place when Eleazar gave the gifts and that, and she agreed to be Isaac's wife.
No, that she was engaged. She's betrothed,
engaged.
but she's not married until the two of them have been together.
Oh, okay.
It's two separate,
They got
two
married.
separate statuses.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you for, because that never, I don't know, just didn't sit right with me. But thank you. Now I get it.
Rabbi Mary.
Okay. So,
Rabbi Mary first.
Well, in the past, quite a long time in the past, I always saw Isaac, as the Nebuch of the three fathers. You know, you cannot hear much of him, and everyone makes fun of him and fools him, etc., etc. But I came to learn to respect him. First of all, he had traumatic brain disorder. You know, after going through what his father intended to do, and thank goodness didn't happen, it was not as healthy as it should be. The other thing that I learned, and this is from my renewal treatment, my renewal study, is that when Yitzhak goes to the fields, he goes to meditate,
right,
to create, Gail, a meditation time of calmness and so forth. Then if we go to Freud, you know, who said that every guy wants to marry their mother. So this is Rivka, and she goes to the tent of Sarah, and the consolation of the death of the mother comes through Rivka. So now I respect Yitzhak when I got older.
Very good. Very good. Bev, I think I see the tips of your fingers.
I was just wondering if they were requiring the Beit Din in those days, if they still had the requirement of the three witnesses to entering the tent, or
No.
No. Okay.
Not yet, I wouldn't think.
Not back then.
Has anyone seen something strange here? Is Elliot, who is Eliezer?
Right.
Mary?
That's Adoni, while he is the slave of Abraham, not of Yitzhak. But here he said, yeah, that's Yitzhak, and I'm his, not slave, messenger, or whatever he was.
Right. It's shifted. It's leaving Abraham out of this.
Mm-hmm.
That's strange, because here he has mentioned all along that Abraham has sent him, and now to Rebekah he says about Isaac, that is my master. Now, is this a shift in Eliezer's thinking, or was this a phrase just like we used to use here in older times? Let's say when you were a child, Stephen, you would be called Master Stephen. Yes. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he was the household servant.
Right.
He was the household servant.
Right.
And obviously, if Isaac is getting married, he's now clearly an adult. You know, back then they didn't have bar mitzvah, but they had marriage.
Right.
He's now clearly an adult. So, you know, it's okay to say he's one of the masters too.
He was 40.
So I think the idea is Eliezer is a servant of the household. He belongs to the household, and whoever is of age and adult in that household is a master too.
Well, Isaac was 40 years old.
Yes.
Yes.
He's certainly an adult.
Yes. So very good insights here. What about what? Let's try to put our heads into the mind of what Isaac and Rebecca. What could be going on? Why is it so important that he's bringing her back into the tent of his mother Sarah?
He was a mama's boy.
Okay. Okay. Stephen, you're shaking your head a little bit. And Rabbi? Go ahead, Rabbi.
I think it's a gesture, not only recognizing his own emotional attachment to his mother, but it's a gesture to the clan that she's the new Sarah. She is the new female head of the clan.
That dovetails into what Steve was mentioning earlier. Yes, Rabbi Mary.
One thing that I think that's why I started changing my mind about Yitzhak. It says, and he loved her. It wasn't just an exchange of goods for a wife. He loved her. And we don't find lots of love among, am I right, Rav Norman? I always had a feeling that Vayohav and Ahava, it's not a common thing that we see. So I think it's an important point.
I'm going to ask the ladies this question first. When we talk about a lengthy marriage or a good marriage, what we talk about love. Is it really love at first sight, or is it something that grows with time?
Now we're going to get back to Fiddler on the Roof.
There you go. Go ahead, Ricky.
47 years, I washed his clothes, or whatever that song is all about.
Sure.
So he asked me, do I love him?
Yeah, but what is it here in this particular in this particular section? What is it talking about? Yes, Steve, you had your hand up.
Well, yeah. Just to go back to what I said originally, that it was a Hirsch comment that it says he took her and then he loved her, rather than reverse, which is sort of implying, according to Hirsch, that the real love comes later, and that's actually the ideal. And I'm just wondering, and this is to the Hebrew, I'm not a Hebrew scholar, but by any means, but I'm just wondering if there is an equivalent in Hebrew. In Spanish, there are two very different words, and this is for Rabbi Miri, I guess. This is a question. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Rabbi Miri. In Spanish, there are two words, and quiero is very different from amo, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Is there the same differentiation in anywhere in Hebrew?
Well, quiero in Spanish is I want. And you can use the word for I want ice cream too.
Okay.
So it's yo te quiero and yo te amo. Amo is much more love than, and in English we have like and love. And so it might be the same.
You also have agape love, and there's different in the Greek and in the Christian, the different kinds of love. Agape love and whatever else.
Okay, Wendy has something she wishes to say.
Because I had thought that in Spanish, and I might be, I heard this once on a radio program or something, is that amo is actually seldom used, because that's very, very selfless love, That's not kind of necessarily a routinely used word. Most couples end up with quiero, and the occasional lucky one is ending up with amo. Or is that not right?
Now, I have a daughter-in-law from Panama, and she uses amo quite a bit for the kids. And then there is the word amoroso that I use, which is cute, beloved. I use it for the kids. It's full of love.
But is there any distinction in Hebrew that's sort of equivalent to that?
Yeah.
Because in Hebrew there's ohev. Is there any other word?
Okay, before I recognize the rabbi, David has had his hand up for a very long time.
Wendy.
Actually, it's Wendy, but because
Oh,
I don't
okay.
have my mic on. You know, flash forward to Hollywood scenes. When Rebecca first saw Isaac, there was obviously an attraction. The fact that we never heard Isaac say, wow, I like this girl, but he said she's mine, means he had the same hormonal attraction as two people do when they do show that like and that hormone flow and the infatuation part of a romance. And in that time, everybody had their duties that they had to do. The women knew what they were supposed to do. The men knew what they were supposed to do. But if they loved each other and they had one of those strong marriages, it meant they got along in more ways than just in the bed. They liked each other and they got along, which is why they say it was so lasting. That was my take on it.
Very good. That is also that follows the commentary by Rabbi Sforno in his interpretation of as well. Rabbi, you had your hand up too.
Yeah, like it has been pointed out, as it has been pointed out, we use the same verb to love something, whether it's a hot dog or whether it's a spouse or whether it's a grandchild. But we all also know that those are different facets of the same emotion. Okay. Hebrews, he was asking, yes, the ahav, aleph, hey, vet is the verb here, but there's yedid, which we translate as beloved, and there's also chaviv, that again usually is beloved also. I don't know of a different English word, but those reflect different facets of the emotion of love. And there are probably other words that I'm just not thinking of right now also, but it's the same in Hebrew, where there are different words that do reflect different aspects of that emotional attachment.
Thank you. Rabbi Mary.
I mean, all of us say that, and it didn't occur to me very quickly. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, ve'ahavta. So we have the clinging as well. It's something that you do with all your might, the word ahav. So it's
Interesting.
Not actual. We all ve'ahavta.
Very interesting. Yes, Suzanne.
I kind of, I don't know, I must have drifted off or something, but the word loved here in 67, what is the Hebrew word again for that?
At the end, that Isaac loved her?
Yeah.
It's only one word. Isaac loved her, the English phrase, 3 words, is only one word in Hebrew. Ve'ahaveha.
Oh, okay. And that, if I'm understanding this conversation, that does not break down like the Greek word for love, of which I think there's 4 different versions of the Greek, agape being one of them. Is that right?
I'm not a Greek scholar. I don't know. Could be.
Well, oh, okay. But I'm asking in the Hebrew, it doesn't break. It means all. It means all forms of love.
As a matter of fact, it's pointed out that this is only the second time that there's been a reference of a love relationship in the Bible. The first one was parent-child. Now this is the the second time that we see a reference to love in that sense, and this is husband-wife or male-female.
Okay, is there another one later on in the Torah?
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, another one, usage of this verb or a different type of love?
Well, I guess I'm asking, well, both actually, but I guess I'm thinking more of a different type of love since we've.
Well, Miri just pointed it out that there's love your God.
Yeah.
Okay. There's also love your neighbor.
That's right.
Love the stranger.
Right. Okay.
That's all the same Hebrew verb, just like we translated all the same with love. But I would strongly suggest that cognitively we understand different types of love, whether we're loving our neighbor, loving a stranger, loving our God, loving our hot dog.
Okay, I got it now. Somewhere along the way, I kind of missed the thread. So, okay, I got it now.
Okay, great.
I know our time is up, but
I wanted to.
I
want to hear again.
Excuse me?
Ask about David and Jonathan, you know.
That's right. That's right. יפה בתך לי מאהבת נשים. Yes, yeah. That's very.
So let's go on to one other aspect to this. So we've had an emphasis on love, and how does this verse end? After love, after Isaac loves Rebekah, it ends, and thus found comfort after his mother's death. So is it just
the word death is not in the Hebrew, incidentally.
Okay,
that's an
very
inference.
important. Very important.
That's an
I did not
inference.
know that.
Just that he was comforted after his mother, or instead of his mother.
Instead of his mother. I can just bring something up Kabbalistically that is in Zohar, that Abraham sees the Shekinah in Sarah. Oops. And Isaac sees the Shekinah in Rebekah. And this is the tie that they use to tie in that he finds the comfort in his, he finds comfort after his, as the rabbi says, after his mother. So I just wanted to make mention of that and open that up for further discussion. If, I know our time is up, but at the same time, I think that the concept of love is something quite important here. Rabbi, how have we seen the word love come into the discussion as before? And other than
not male female.
That's right.
Not in that kind of partnership. No.
That's right.
I want to pick up on that, though, that very often when a young gal is looking at a possible mate or spouse or whatever you want, partner, they always say, the man, look at his relationship with his mother to decide what type of a man he really is very much reflected in the man's relationship to his mother. So
good point. Good point.
I'll be very brief. I can send you the times that we have to have in the Torah, but when I look here, it's much later. We see it in Psalms, we see it in Nevi'im and prophets. So that's interesting that the time with the Torah doesn't appear too much, but I can send you the reference. What I want
Please.
to add is that we are now in parasha this week called Nachamu, which it comes in Ainachem. He was consoled. He was, you said another word. He was Nechama, consoled. He felt, you know,
Comforted.
yeah, comforted.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Rabbi Roman, yes.
Yeah, last comment, because we're asking about the use of the term. The first time, as I mentioned, the first time that we encountered that verb, it's parent-child, and Isaac is the child.
Right.
Who's being referred to, okay? Now it's Isaac is the one who is responsible for the love. Okay? So, because God says to Abraham, take your son, your only son, the one whom you love. That Isaac was the object of the love. Now he's the subject of loving someone else.
That's good.
Ricky, I do not have my chart.
All right, you mean this thing that I always have?
No, not that chart, but the Sephiroth.
Oh, this
Sephirotic chart. I have to get up and get it.
I'm 2 seconds away from mine. Hold on.
Okay, because of where they put Abraham.
What's your question?
And Isaac.
What's your question?
Where they place which Sephiroth for Abraham and Isaac?
Which of the spheres?
Chesed, loving kindness, and Isaac. This one I would have known. Isaac
I apologize. I have to leave. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom, Rabbi.
And Isaac is Gavor, which is the strength, the restraint, the concentration. So,
okay, which is love and which is judgment?
No, Abraham is love, and Isaac is judgment.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
if you think about it chronologically. We always say Chesed first, then Gavor, and Abraham is before Isaac. So you'll remember which one is which by knowing that.
Perfect. Very good. Thank you. Any further discussion before I turn it over to Ruth Ann for her announcements, if any? And but I want to thank everyone for their contributions.
Thank you, Mark.
Well,
thank you, David.
Basically, thanks to Steve, and I had the week off up until Friday, which is very, very appreciative because I'm hard working on the high holidays. We had a visit from a cantor from he's actually up in Phoenix. His in-laws live in Green Valley. He came yesterday and he recorded 15 different prayers for the high holidays.
Nice.
And they were excellent, and I just got to work on getting them saved and edited. And so that's my week this week. Plus on Friday we will be trying out the new, at least new to me, the open broadcasting software with a special musical Shabbat. And then Saturday morning, we have our traditional, Saturday morning Shabbat. So you'll be getting the links will be going out later on this week.